Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. And today we have another brand new set of crazy revenge stories for you. But before we begin, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story is, someone stole $25,000 from me. It ended up costing him $500,000. A preamble. I was married to a very OCD and pragmatic man. For example, for him, a big romantic gesture had been to leave me alone for 24 hours at the hospital right after I had our son so he could go pay bills and mow the lawn. 20 years later, I do understand he really did express love this way. But that's another story. I was in dire need of physical contact because he'd never touched me, and also never kissed me. The story's not about him, it's just a preamble. So I divorced him, not just for what's above, mind you. I felt alone and unloved in this relationship. I just wrote about it to explain the state of mind I was in when I met this other person that we'll call PS. PS was the total opposite. He was very in tune with his emotions. He was very, very intense. This will be important later. He really expressed love like I thought I needed. On our first date, the waitress asked how long we'd been together since he was so into me and touching me. He made me feel amazing. He had a huge house and a flashy lifestyle, so I assumed he was well off. He told me he owned a car wash and a phone marketing company. Fast forward a bit. At this point, we'd been dating for about a year, and he just asked me and my son to move in with him. I wasn't 100% sure, but he prepared the room for my son nonetheless. As I started spending more time in his house, still keeping mine, I also started to see strange behavior. He'd be up all night, then sleep all day. I also overheard a few phone calls where he was telling people they owed money and needed to pay, but the conversation didn't fit with a car wash or phone marketing business. At some point, he told me he was having money problems. He said huge clients were late in paying, and that was jeopardizing his house payment. So stupid me, I offered to help. I'm missing a part of this story because it all started as me offering help with the house since we were there a lot. I still had my house, but it ended up with me lending him $25,000. I can't for the life of me remember that progression. The loan was supposed to be for 3 weeks. He said, I'll have it all back in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Well, the $25,000 came from my retirement savings / son's college money, so I had to pay a fine to access it. It's also money that took me 10 years to put aside. The money was very important to me. During those 3 weeks, I went out to have drinks with friends and found him on a date with another woman. I saw him French kissing another woman. I said nothing, went to his house, packed my stuff, and left. So anyway, I thought he'd be an adult and would still reimburse the $25,000 after the 3 weeks. Big mistake. Someone I knew told me he was glad I left and proceeded to tell me about him. He said he was a junkie, and that's why he was so intense in all his emotions. That also explained the erratic sleep / night patterns. The final blow, though, was what PS told me was also a con man, a specialist in defrauding older people by phone. That's his so-called phone marketing company. In the beginning, I wasn't sure I believed it, but then bits of what I'd overheard in the last year started to make sense, and I realized it was all true. Back to this later. I tried having my money back many different ways. None worked. I was at the end of my rope, and since it was in my years post-divorce, right after the 2008-2009 economic crash as well, I was poor as hell. So this is what I did. First, he'd given me access to pay bills online. Not to his bank accounts, but to his emails. So I was able to investigate all his accounts with the same password. I printed / screenshotted every little bit of information relating to money. I found proof that he was indeed scamming people and found the people he worked with and even the name of the person at Western Union who facilitated the money transfer. I found out he was an organized criminal. I also found out he did this between 2 countries. I started preparing strike one. Strike one. So for strike one, I printed his face and the face of everyone working for / with him from their online profiles in defrauding people and left hundreds of flyers in his neighborhood. I also called the hotline for financial crime prevention in both the countries and gave very specific details and names. Know that even if he had given me the money, this goes against my core values, and I would have done the same thing either way. At this point, I was preparing strike two. Strike two. I was dumb in lending him money, but at least I did it the right way. I wrote a check. I didn't do cash. I wanted proof just in case. It would turn out to be a great idea. On the check, I had written that it was a loan. Thank you, Judge Judy, for this tip. Since he didn't pay me back, I prepared an invoice and sent it to me from his hacked email. When the time came to do my taxes, I filed the $25K as an expense using this invoice. I have many freelancers. I slid him as one of them. And it passed. Don't ask me how I got his social security number, I can't remember, but I ended up having access to it, so ratted him out to the IRS for hiding income. I found out later through friends that the IRS started investigating him for unpaid taxes. I heard he had to pay 38% taxes on that $25K, plus pay a 20% fine for not declaring income. At this point, I was satisfied. I figured $9,500 in taxes plus $5K in fines was 50% of what he owed me. At least he didn't get away with all of it. But remember, I told you on the check I'd written that it was a loan. So I took about 2 to 3 years, but eventually took him to court and won. He didn't even show up. So he has to reimburse the full $25K plus court costs plus what he owes to the IRS, so it's $39,500 that he was to pay for not reimbursing the $25,000. To this day, I haven't seen a cent, but the rest of the story makes it worthwhile. For a while, I thought the financial crime call I made had no effect. Now the cherry on top. What I didn't know at the time is that the IRS would team up with the wire fraud division and look at everything he did. They were able to not catch him on wire fraud, but since the house he had did not fit with the money he was declaring, they got him on tax evasion and gave him a certain delay to pay back taxes. I heard it was only 3 months. I don't know if that's accurate. They got him so good, they ended up freezing his accounts, and he lost his house. The bank foreclosed on it, and his debt to the IRS is still open. We're not in the U.S., so he won't go to jail for this, however. But my $25,000 that he didn't want to repay ended up costing him over $500,000. And since you can't go bankrupt for a debt you owe the government, I'm happy to tell you that at 40 years old, he had to move back in with his parents and ask for welfare and will probably be paying this for the rest of his life. The story's not finished, however. I just learned that he now has a job as a concierge in the apartment building where his parents live, so I'll be contacting the court to have the money he owes me taken directly from his pay. The thing is, he has no idea I'm the culprit of all his bad fortune, and he recently sent me a message telling me he misses me, that I was an angel for him, and that he regrets what he did. Well, not me, loser. Not me. Wow. The fact that he still has no idea it's you makes it even better. And our next story. If it's not here by 5, I'm not paying for it. Years ago, I drove a tow truck, and we delivered a lot of cars to dealers. One little dealership was notorious for having jerks working there. It was like all the high school bullies got back together and opened a car lot. Got a call on a Friday after lunch from a client asking me to deliver a car to the dealership, and they had to have it before 5 p.m. or they didn't have to pay for it. And by pay for it, I mean the car and the tow bill. This would be no problem. The car was a couple blocks from me, and the dealer was about a mile away. I went and hooked the car and headed to the dealer. It was 3:30 when I left my office. I get to the dealership and go to find someone to sign for it. Nobody would sign. They told me to just park it around back. Knowing what jerks these guys were, there was no way I was going to leave it there without being able to prove that they got it before 5. I talked to the new car manager, used car manager, service manager, and finance manager. No one would sign for it. And they were taunting me, almost looking for a fight. Okay. So I dropped the car and drove it up to their front doors. Got out, locked it, backed up, and looked at the crew inside laughing. I backed up another couple steps and threw the keys onto their roof. They lost their crap. I waved and left. I was back in my office in less than 5 minutes. By this time, it was 4:45. I walk in and my boss was on the phone laughing. He called me right into his office and put the call on speaker. Our client was on the phone. It was the GM from the dealer. He was a lunatic about his showroom being blocked by the car and tossing the keys on the roof. My client and boss knew these guys were jerks and wanted to know what had happened. I told them nobody would sign for the car and it had to be there before 5. GM said, "Right." I said, "So it's before 5 and you're calling to complain that the car is blocking your showroom?" "Yes." At this point, my boss, the client, Mike, and I were laughing hysterically. The GM got madder until I could catch my breath and call his crew out for not signing for it. They were going to say the car got there after 5 so they didn't have to pay if I didn't have proof of delivery. It's kind of hard to do now because the GM was on the phone at 4:45 complaining about the car on his lot. The dealer treated their customers the same way they tried to treat me. Less than 2 years later, the building was a mattress store. Dealership treats clients/customers like crap. Client fights back through the power of trolling. Dealership shocked Pikachu face. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.